Ken, it's over to you, please, if you can start us off. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please.
All right, so to start today's session off on money, I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about the brain, and specifically about what our brain does when we make decisions and purchase decisions, so when we're actually buying things and spending that hard-earned cash. And when I do this, I am going to ask you guys a few questions. There will be audience participation, and this is the point where everyone freaks out. Don't worry, there's only 3 questions, and I'm very friendly. It'll be okay. All right, so I am Kenda Macdonald. That is my Twitter handle up there. If you have any pictures on your phone of cows, specifically Highland cows, then please tweet them to me. It makes me happy. All right. Okay. So my company, Automation Ninja, specializes specifically in marketing automation, but we do something a little bit different in that sphere, and we actually combine this with biopsychology. And the understanding here is that we are all humans that have survived, and we have survived because our brains have evolved to enable us to survive. Complicated sentence there. So effectively, because our brains have evolved in such a way to help us survive and help us do certain things, what they have not done is evolve to help us buy things and make decisions very well. And because of that, we have lots of biases when it comes to decision making. And I want to help you understand a little bit about that. And that's what we help our customers do effectively. So we've got a lot of problem as businesses, as designers working within businesses, as marketing components. We have tons of problems. And one of the problems is that there is a mismatch between what consumers want and what businesses are providing. So here's the first question. Everybody freak out a little bit. What is it that consumers actually want? Broad question, lots of broad answers. Come on, guys. I believe in you. Satisfaction, solutions, experiences. What was that? Happiness. Oh, happiness. What's happiness? All right. Okay, yeah, exactly. Experiences, great answer for that. And when you look at all of the different solutions, happiness, experiences, all the different things that people actually want, consumers actually just want to consume. And it's the experience of consuming that consumers want to, actually have happiness within. And so what they want to do is they want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to be interrupted. And they certainly don't want to be sold to. And what is it that businesses want to do? Yeah, exactly. We want to sell. We want to sell to the consumers. We want to provide a solution to them, and we want to make a profit doing that because that makes us happy, right? So effectively, now we have this big divide because consumers don't want any of that, and we're wanting to provide this very specific solution, and now we're trying to go buy our stuff, and these guys are going, no, I don't want to buy your stuff. And effectively, what do? We advertise to them because we have this amazing internet in which we can get in front of people's faces when they're on social media. We can do all sorts of cool things. But traditional advertising is dying. Interruption advertising is dying. And it's quite a bold statement, but I have 2 tiny little words that back that up very emphatically, and that is ad blockers. Okay? So ad blockers are proof that advertising is slowly and surely dying in the way that we currently do it. People do not want to be interrupted with your adverts, but they do want to consume. And so effectively, we're talking the wrong language to our consumers. They're telling us very specifically with their behavior what they want, and we're ignoring them and doing the traditional advertising that we're very used to doing. So we've got a bit of a problem there. Now, this is probably one of my favorite clickbait titles ever. The one trick that brains don't want you to know. Right, I'm going to teach you exactly what that is today, and we're going to talk about that. So what does a consumer rely on the most when it comes to making a decision? Yes? 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 All of these are very true, and what we do is we build this into our experiences, but actually what we rely on the most, and the way that we build this into our experiences is rule sets. That's what we rely on. And so when we're paying attention to something, our brains do some very interesting things. And there's a dude called Daniel Kahneman who came up with the way that we pay attention to stuff. So to understand how you can best get in front of consumers, you need to understand how you're going to get attention and then what you're going to do with that attention once you've got it. And so understanding system 1 and system 2 is incredibly important. So Daniel Kahneman came up with this theory of attention. And he said that we have 2 specific systems that account for the way that we pay attention to things. System 1 is our really fast system. It's what we use to make those really quick decisions. It's when your sibling throws a ball at your face and you close your eyes. That's system 1, right? Yay for siblings. System 2 is that much slower, considered system. It's what we are forced to use when we're doing geometry at school, like trying to figure out what's going on with maths. That's system 2 kicking in. And system 1 is like super automatic, and system 2 is like really manual. And we like to call system 1 the autopilot. It's kind of when you're doing things habitually, you're using system 1. And when you're doing things like really manually and stuff, you're using system 2. So we call that the pilot. We like to think of ourselves as these super conscious beings that spend a lot of time thinking about things, and I think, therefore I am. But we actually spend a very small amount of our day in this because we cannot actually utilize the processing power of our brain just for thinking. We've got a lot of other shit to do, like stand upright, right? Our bodies have got to keep stable, and system 1 helps us do that. And so the only reason that we can do this is because system 1 is currently taking in 11 million bits of information per second. There's a huge amount of information. And when you look at the difference, system 2 takes in 40 bits. So, I mean, if you can see the difference between that, if we spent all of our time in system 2, we wouldn't get out the door in the morning. There's just no ways. And system 1 can only do that because of rule sets. It basically learns things. So remember when you're like learning how to drive a car the first time and you're terrified and you're like, I don't know how any of this works. And it's so effortful when you're learning how to drive. And now, somehow, you end up at work and you're like, I don't know how I got here. I got in the car, and now I'm here, and that's a little bit scary. That is system 1 helping you do things. And this has massive implications for our marketing, because this much more kind of intensive and effortful process is what we expect our consumers to be in all day long. So when we put an ad up, we're like, yeah, they're going to pay attention to this. They're going to look at this picture, and they're going to read this headline, and then they're going to click through. No, they're not. They're not going to do that. Okay, I can pretty much guarantee that what's going to happen first is a decision needs to be made as to what to pay attention to. And so to explain this, I like to use the Minions, okay? Has everyone seen this movie? If you haven't, you should. Take anything away from this, go watch this movie. It's very silly. So system 2 is kind of Gru. He's the man at the top that is telling people what to do effectively. And Gru is the mastermind. This is what we like to think our brain is doing all day long. But actually, our brain is mostly minions running around, just totally wrecking anything, right? And so what you need to do when you're thinking about your consumers is remember that they are in minion mode and you're trying to get an important advert up in front of them, and the minions are like, I don't know what this is, and it puts it in the junk, right? So now it's made a big mistake. And the one thing we can rely on is that system 1 is going to make mistakes with its rules. So your nicely crafted advert's probably going to end up in the junk for whatever reason, and there's only a small percentage of time when it's actually going to be brought up and paid attention to actively. And so we need to focus on system 2 as businesses, and we need to do that in the moment. And the way that we do that is by understanding what our consumers want and providing the information that they want and helping them consume rather than interrupting them. Okay? Death of advertising. And that's because we know what we need to pay attention to, and our brains have also learned what not to pay attention to. And advertising or clicking on those flashing banners gives you a virus, right? That's what we've learned so far, or takes you to some dodgy sites that you don't want to go to and you probably end up on a list somewhere for. Okay. So it's really important to understand that brains are actively working against you. It's just a fact of the matter, and you've got to figure out how you're going to align what you want with what the consumer wants. So let's talk about the purchase decision now, because that's just getting attention. So what actually happens when it comes to a purchase decision? So there was a really rad experiment, and what they did is they took people and they put them in an fMRI scanner, and now we've only just developed this technology. It's not like it's been around here for hundreds of years. And we said to people, we put them in, and this dude said, I can't remember what his name was, but he was really cool. He was a neurologist. And he put them in there, and he said, right, I'm going to show you a box of chocolates. And I want you to think about this box of chocolates, and then I'm going to show you the price of the box of chocolates, and then you decide whether or not you want to buy it. right? Really simple, straightforward purchase decision, exactly what adverts do for us. And what happened was fascinating. Because when they saw the box of chocolates, the reward centers of our brain lit up like a Christmas tree. And now that's all great, because that's what we want people to do. What was really interesting is that the better the brand of chocolates, the more the reward centers lit up, so the higher the amount of activation our brains received. But when they showed us the cost, the pain centers of our brain lit up. Now, literally, the areas of our brain that are responsible for feeling emotional pain and physical pain lit up. And this is what I mean by we are hacking our survival brain. We have evolved to survive. We've evolved to go, I want a reward in terms of most people want to have children. I say most people because I'm not one of those people. I like cats, right? So people want kids. Kids is a reward factor. So they go through the pain of having children because they want that reward. So the reward outweighs the pain. But when we see a tiger in the jungle, we're like, oh no, I'm going to get eaten. That's painful. Run away, right? That's how we've evolved. Now, when we see cost, we have to kind of hack parts of our brain that we're not used to utilizing. And because we're not used to utilizing that, our brain just goes, I don't know how to deal with this, so pain's going to deal with it. That's your job, right? And so there is actually an equation that they worked out from this. The likelihood of someone buying your product is related to the net value of your product. And you can work out the net value of your product by figuring out the amount of reward minus the pain. If the pain outweighs the reward, they ain't going to buy. It's not going to happen. But if the reward outweighs the pain, they will purchase. And interestingly, there's different ways that you can go about this. But the thing that you want to do is you want to increase the net value, because the higher the net value is, the more likely your consumer is to buy. This is why it's important to talk benefits first when you're talking to your consumers and not just features. So let's talk about how we actually utilize these as solutions. So the answer to life, the universe, and everything is unfortunately not number 42, but it is in understanding your problems. And so first and foremost, let's recap that. You're talking the wrong language to your consumers. There's a bunch of negative rule sets, so your consumers are basically minions running around not paying attention to anything. And then we actually feel physical pain when it comes to a purchase, which is not a good thing. So let's talk about how you actually solve that. So first and foremost, you need to understand what your consumers care about. When you understand what they care about, you can create content that they want to consume. That means it gets flagged up to system 2 and it gets paid attention to. This is why content marketing works. Okay, this is the scientific reason for writing good blogs, creating good videos, and good content is good for your business. Secondarily, understand when you need to show up and how you need to behave when you do show up there. So sometimes putting an ad out on social media is not the right approach for your audience. It might be for a different audience, but it might not be for yours. If you are targeting mums who are having difficulty with their baby's teething and are trying to take a break out and just spend a little bit of time on social media, yeah, putting a post on Facebook is a good idea because that's where they're hanging out and that's the mind that they're currently in. If you are targeting marketing directors and you're putting an ad up on social media about a thing that's going to make them more productive at work, and you're doing it at 6 o'clock in the evening, they're not going to listen, right? They're watching, what's that program, Love Island or some nonsense? They're watching that. They're watching that. They're not paying attention to your advert. So understand where you need to show up and how you need to do it. Because if you're focusing on that marketing director, instead, they're going to be researching loads of different solutions for those specific problems. And you need to have content available at that point in time. And you'd be much better off if you're going to do advertising, doing pay-per-click and working on your SEO. Right, and then focus on increasing the net value. And what I mean by this is there are certain brands whose net value is so intrinsically high that they can charge pretty much anything for anything, right? Nike is one of those brands, and what they've done recently is really tap into that emotional net value as well. And there's loads of different ways that you can increase your net value, but that should be a big focus. And when you start focusing on these different areas, you start to hack the brain for attention, because you're starting to tap into how the brain actually works and what consumers want, and you're starting to think entirely differently. So let's talk about what to do now. So first and foremost, you need to understand the behavior of your consumers. It's really, really important to sit down and figure out what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. And then how your customers are actually thinking, and then anticipate their needs. Know what the next step is in the cycle for them. You have a pool of people, you're experts in your industry, talk to people and find out what's the journey that they're going out, and validate that with data. Okay, so validate that with information from your sites. See where people are actually going. And the best advice that I can give to you is to create a good customer journey. So to sit down and go, my consumer is this, these are the actual things that they are doing, these are the things that are important for them, and this is how I can help at each and every step along that journey that they're going on. And when they've ended that journey, what's the next step and how can I help with that? And creating that customer journey allows you to create a really direct path for them, and that's what you want. And I'm literally writing the book on this at the moment. So if you guys want a free copy, because it is .York and you guys are all amazing, just let us know. So Mike in the front here in the purple shirt and I have got some little golden tickets that you guys can take and get yourselves a free copy of the book before it becomes expensive. Because it'll become expensive, right? Right. All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much indeed for starting us off, and also for telling me that now I know most of my mental processes are just run by minions. That explains so much of my life.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Right, I'm going to jump straight into evolution, because it strikes me that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But we've got two timescales going on. We've got this long, slow thing that happens over millennia that gives us the lizard brain, but we've also got this part of our brain that can learn really quickly and learn that banner takes us onto a list somewhere. Those two things seem to be in a little bit of tension.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Red Queen arms race kind of situation. I kind of know and expect now that a content marketing article has an advert planted somewhere in it or has a link to the person that wrote it.
Yeah.
What's the next evolution of that? What comes after that?
So I think there is a relationship building that people are now demanding on. I can't remember, I'm terrible with names, but I can't remember the dude who came up with the quote, but he said we're moving from the informational age into the relational age. And I really believe that that's where we're going. And currently we've kind of developed this demand and this need. Consumers are demanding content. It's not a luxury, it's not a strategy anymore. You have to do it. Consumers are demanding that content now, but what they're also starting to demand is the relationship that they used to have when they walked into the corner store. So when they walked into the corner store and had a conversation with the person who they were getting their groceries from, like all the way back in the 40s when everything was lovely and nice, apparently. So that kind of relational thing, they want that, but they want that from a person that they've never met. And that's where I really feel like we can get ahead as businesses, is we can provide that content, but at the same time, build the relationship, build trust and build engagement. And people want places to hang out. That's why we created MySpace originally. That's why Facebook works so well. That's why Twitter works so well. All these, Instagram, I mean, bloody hell. So all these things that we've created, we want somewhere where we feel like we've got a relationship, but we're also getting a little bit jaded with social media. Yeah. So we're wanting to kind of go somewhere where we can hang out, where we know that people get us, and that's our opportunity as a business now.
And I guess bots were positioned for a while as something that could give us that conversational relationship, if you like, but they've not seemed to have fulfilled their promise so far. Where do you stand on that?
Did you see the Google, when they released the Google bot, she did the phone call and booked the hairdresser appointment? She laughed. That was the creepiest fucking thing I've seen in a long time. I think we really understand that it's not that. That's not what we want from a bot at all. What we want is the unique bits of personality that humans can give us. And we're quite happy if that's been programmed into a bot, but when the bot makes that, we all go, ugh, because we know it's not real, and we know it's totally emulated. So I think that there is a bit of a divide, and I think we're going to use bots very informationally and for very specific things, but then we're going to want to transition into a human relationship and content effectively. I'm not even a content provider, it's the way to go, but content helps us create that relationship en masse. It helps us scale that. The scalability with it is phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to try one thing really quickly, if I may, kind of like a mini clinic. I'm interested in this idea of net value, but I think it probably means something very different in different contexts. Does anybody have a brand out there or something that they're promoting or a client that they're working on who's curious as to what this concept of net value might actually mean in their situation that is willing to share? And we can have a little quick clinic from Kenda.
Silence.
Nobody wants... Yes, please, yeah.
It's a very obvious one. We develop websites for companies, and what I'm looking at now is value pricing. How much is the website worth to the company, not how many days is it going to take us to build it. So I'm going to see the company and essentially saying, look, if we build you, if we refresh your website, if we improve the functionality, if we improve the content, if you just get one more sale as a result of that, it will have paid for itself.
I think it's way deeper than that. And I think this is where the cost of something really taps into the emotional aspect. For a lot of businesses, having a good website taps into their confidence for who they are as a company. I'm not confident to send people to my site because it looks like a sack of crap, so I'm not going to do it. Whereas, oh my God, I got this new website, it does everything we need to do. The next time they meet somebody, they're like, go check the site out. So it totally changes the way that businesses kind of talk about their sites and talk about themselves. And so I think the value is not just in the conversions. Yeah, the conversions are there, but that's what everyone is promising when it comes to website, better conversions. But it's not just that. It's about something that creates a relationship with the consumer, but also allows the business to be proud of it. And most businesses want to be proud of their websites, but they're not.
Thank you. And great. Sorry to put you on the spot. That was a good answer.
That's right.
I guess the thing that connects what you've been talking about to maybe the other three talks that we're going to hear is this idea of a transaction.
Yeah.
Can I just come to any of the other panelists? Does this resonate with what you're about to talk about, or maybe a different area that you're not going to talk about in terms of that engagement and that relationship that causes the transaction?
Maybe I jump in talking about transactions. Certainly, in my experience, moving more towards a value-based transaction rather than just a vanilla transaction in the sense that you've got a buyer and a seller and they have no relationship at all. I think moving more towards a value-based judgment where people actually see transactions as almost a political statement. You're actually able to make an informed choice through using one supplier or another, through something that's informed at a deeper level, maybe at a value-based level. And maybe for me, that's where it ties into the values and a value set of the actual buyer and how you're tapping into that value and getting a good alignment with their values so that you're presenting yourself as a seller in a way in which you are utterly aligned with the buyer, and then that is then the basis for a good relationship between the two.
Thank you. I'm already wondering whether we should have called this section Not Money, because I think it might be difficult to actually talk about the folding stuff when we're trying to talk about the reasons for having it and the things that actually behind it. Interesting. Thank you very much, and another round of applause for Ken, please.